Page 8, Scaling the Rockies. On page 6, they talk about whole steps and half steps. So let's cover those because those are important. We're going to build on things so you can understand how music is sort of put together and understand how it works. And so whole steps and half steps is like the first thing you really need to understand, in my opinion. It's good. Simply put, a half step is the shortest distance between any two notes. In our harmonic system, a half step. On piano, it's the next key up or down on the piano, white or black. Using all the keys here. So let's take a C, for instance. If I want to go up a half step, I simply go up to the next key, white or black, which is here. It's a half step between them. Sounds wonderful, don't it? Go down a half step, just go down one key, white or black, here. Here, that's a half step. If I go here, that's not a half step because there's a key in between, and there can't be. That is a whole step. Two halves make a whole. So two half steps, so a half step and another half step, that makes it a whole step. A whole step has one key on the piano in between it. Kind of important you know those. It really just, it's fairly straightforward. I hope it's logical. Just keep that in mind. They got all kinds of these sharps and flats in there. Just keep in mind that it's a half step is the next key up or down, and a whole step, there's one key in between. There's two halves and a whole. That's all. On page 7, introducing you to a major scale. And this is really, I'm a big believer on scales. I don't agree with the way the book is approaching it necessarily, but I am a big believer on scales. If you'll just take a few moments each time at the beginning of your practice, the first time you practice a day, just go over the whatever scale you're working on, or scales. It only takes a moment, doesn't take very long, you don't have to spend a lot of time on it. It pays off in ways I can't explain. That's the problem. Why should I learn the scales? Believe me, there's a whole lot of reasons. So just take my word for it for now. C major scale, we start there because it uses only the white keys on a piano. It's easy to see. There's no sharps or flats involved. And you just go C to C here right now. At the top of the page, they talk about tetrachords. Tetra means four. And this is how John Thompson teaches scales. And John Thompson is a method that I went through when I was a little kid. Thoroughly messed me up on scales. I hated, didn't understand them, wanted nothing to do with them. And it was mainly because of the tetrachords. So I don't like tetrachords. It's basically a scale. It's 8 notes from letter to letter. And 8 divided by 2 is 4. So it's 2 tetrachords. And that's how they're doing it. You leave out the thumbs. And you have them. I don't recommend leaving or learning any scale according to tetrachords. It's the method at the bottom of the page, sort of, that I prefer. And the fingering used is standard. There have been many attempts in the past to change the fingering, to get some other fingering. And when you get in the music, you might have to use a slightly different fingering, but the motions are the same. So if you can get the motion down, you're covered. Now I prefer to use scale or to approach scales as I do in my scale videos. I have a playlist on scales. Just bookmark the playlist so you can go right to it whenever you want. Then find the scale or scales you need and cover that. So go to my playlist, watch the scale or the video on introduction to scales or whatever, and then the C major scale video, and do the beginner part, the 1 octave up and down. Don't go further than that. That is a serious mistake, please. Stick with the beginner part. 1 octave up and down. I talk about accenting notes and the wrists, working the wrists and the weight. Try and get all that down if you can, because that's really about the only technique I teach is in the scale videos, because I can't teach technique in this format very well. I need you in front of me where I can see what you're doing for technique. But I try and describe it, so do the best you can on that. The fingering, I don't like using music on scales. I've had requests from people who, would you do this particular scale book? And no, because it's just scales. I prefer the approach I use in the videos. I don't use music. I want you concentrating on the fingers and the keyboard. You'll learn to recognize the scales in the music easily enough. So in the C major scale, you're going to do that. You don't have to do it both hands together, although in the video I do, there. So learn the C major scale. Here. 1 octave up and down, and don't go that fast. Just 1 octave up and down. I have to show off occasionally. Okay. Now let's talk scaling the Rockies, because in here you're using the C major scale. So when I practice, I generally practice multiple times a day for short periods. I don't take it like one long period anymore. I used to, not anymore. So I do short periods a day, and it's the first period, the first time I practice, where I do any scales or that kind of thing that I'm going to do for the day. So let's talk about this piece. 4/4 time, 4 counts in a measure, quarter note gets a count. We're in the key of C major. Since you're studying the C major scale, you just as well learn about the key signatures. The key of C major has no sharps or flats in a key signature, and it's hard to see it when there's nothing there. But take my word for it. There is a key signature in the music. You can't see it because it's empty. But it appears between the clef sign and the time signature. That little space between them, that's where the key signature goes. But since it's empty, there's nothing there, because it's the key of C major. So starting with the right hand, let's make sure we got this. And basically it's a scale. You need to be able to do the scale. Here and thumb on the F. If you'll relax, your hand can move quite a bit and the thumb can move quite a bit if you'll just stay relaxed. So just come on, don't scritch over and do all kinds of fancy nonsense. Just relax. And there's 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3. And then the scale going down. Thumb, so again, relax. And then for the last measure, the second line, F and a G. And then the next line, it's a G, and then you do the scale again. And then for the last 2 measures, you get the scale coming down, but there's an 8 VA above the staff. That means go up an octave. So rather than here, you're going to just lift up and move. There's no rest or anything. You're going to just lift up and move. Here, it's kind of hard to do because you have to move and play immediately. You know, you'll have a rest where you can get up there and get ready. No, you got to move and play. So you're going here. You may have to practice that. And then you're playing the last 2 measures up here. Left hand starts here. It's a 1, 2, second line. And the left hand gets the scale. If you know the scale, this is easy. If you don't know the scale, you struggle with this. Because you want all these notes connected and smooth. Now we have an F sharp. Just instead of the F, you play the F sharp. Okay, then you try and put the hands together. And again, you may hesitate. That's okay right now, because we just want the hands to work together. These here and here, because they're different notes and different fingers, and that's tricky. So you go through and put the hands together. Now in the last 2 measures with the AVA, it's only for the right hand. The left hand stays right where it's at. If they wanted both hands to go up, they have to tell you that. Otherwise, that AVA only applies to the staff it's next to. That's it. Now once you can get the hands sorted together, then you go back over and work on the trouble spots and get rid of the hesitations. So it's a steady beat. Go as slow as you gotta go, doesn't matter. It's a steady beat. Then we add the articulation. Well, they don't give you much. It gets slurs. Here. Lift up. Just a slight lift up. It's like taking a breath. The half note, you're cutting it just a little bit short, so you can do that. And when you get the second line here, you're playing here, at the end of the first measure here, lift both hands up before you go on. So there's a little bit of silence. Lift up. Lift up. Lift up for the slurs. And that's the only articulation they give you. Dynamics. It's going to apply to whichever hand has the scale. At the beginning, moderately loud, that's sort of loud. I don't know what that is. You decide. The left hand here is soft. Soft. Moderately loud. And this is moderately loud. Soft. Same time. Then you go up a notch to loud. This is going to stay soft. This is loud, that's soft. That's soft, loud. Then come down to moderately loud. Then stay moderately loud. The last measure, that's moderately loud. This is soft. We want to hear the right hand. That's hard to do. It takes a little bit of practice to play one hand louder than the other, but I'm asking you to keep working at it. You may not succeed on this piece or the next or whatever, but if you'll keep working at it, you will get it eventually, and you can always come back through and play these pieces again, and you'll play them so much better and enjoy them a lot more, later on. Right now you may struggle a bit. That's normal. As far as the speed goes, moderatos, it's not fast or slow, somewhere in the middle, but it's the overall feel of the piece. It's not the speed of the beat. So it's these scales. How fast can you do the scale? I mean, the scale's going to feel a little fast, because then the rest of it's going to feel a little slow. So you got to kind of find somewhere in the middle, and that's going to be your speed. That's my moderato. You have to decide what your moderato is and be able to play the whole thing through with no hesitations, no wrong notes, nothing. Remember the natural accents, the first beat of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Just feel it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Just feel it. Don't force it. Feel it. There's another one, but right now let's focus on the first beat of the measure. Try and feel that one at least. I like to play this with you very slowly, and let's check the notes and the rhythms. I don't think the rhythms are a problem, but it'll be the notes. Now this is after you've learned it. So learn it first, get to where you can play with no hesitations, and then we'll play it together very, very slowly. We're not performing it, we're just checking notes and rhythms. I'll give us 4 counts. 1, 2, ready, go, and then we go. 1 and 2 and ready and go and 1 and 2. 1 and 4 and. And 4 and. And 4 and. And 4 and.